Pujo time is here, and today I'm going to share a simple Bengali Niramish Bhoger Thali. We are going to start with some khichuri, some delicious labra to go with the khichuri, followed by sweet, sour, spicy Bengali tomato chutney, Kumro Porer bhaja, papor, and end with creamy Bengali Payesh. We will start with the recipes of the khichuri and the labra first. For the khichuri, we are going to start with 200 grams or 1 cup of moong dal. We are going to dry roast this over medium heat for about a minute or so. You can tell that it's roasted when it starts to smell aromatic. I don't like to dry roast the dal for too long so the color turns brownish. That way the dal's flavor turns very intense, but if you prefer it that way, you should totally do it. Pour all the dal into a bowl along with 1 cup or 220 grams of Gobindo Bhog rice. Add enough water to the bowl and wash the rice and the dal together thoroughly. You can repeat this process 2 to 3 times, discard the water every time, and in the end you can drain the rice and the dal over a strainer and set it aside. Next, we will set a pot on medium heat and add about 3 tablespoons of any neutral oil. You can also use mustard oil if you wish. Add a half a teaspoon of cumin seeds, 3 green cardamoms, a 1-inch cinnamon stick, and 2 bay leaves. We will stir fry these for 20 to 30 seconds till the cumin seed starts spluttering and the whole garam masala turns aromatic. Here I crushed a 2-inch piece of ginger and I also crushed 2 green chillies along with it. We are going to add that in along with half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin powder, and half a teaspoon of red chilli powder. At this point, lower the heat and we are going to fry all the spices for about 2 minutes till the flavor becomes nice and intense, guys. If the oil becomes too hot and you think that the spices may burn, just add a splash of water and continue to stir. But this step is crucial for the khichuri to taste really good. Next, we are going to add in the rice and the dal that we washed thoroughly and drained. Add salt to taste. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of salt and we're going to mix everything together. Fry it for about a minute or so. Don't fry it too long, if not the khichuri will turn out grainy. Next, we are going to add in water. Let's start by adding 4 to 5 cups of water. This water can be at room temperature, but we will add more water later. That is going to be hot water. Let's give this a stir and wait for the water to come to a rolling boil. Once the water starts to boil, we will reduce the heat to the lowest possible setting and we will place the lid on and let the dal and the rice cook through. It's been about 10 minutes and it looks like most of the water is absorbed. At this point, you would want to give it a stir because you don't want the dal and the rice to burn. We want to make sure that the rice and the dal have cooked through. It feels like the dal is about 70% cooked. So at this point, I'm going to add 2 cups of hot water and then I'm going to place the lid back on for about 3 to 5 minutes till the khichuri is completely cooked through. Guys, if you're new to my channel, welcome. Consider subscribing for exciting new recipes every week. It's been 5 more minutes and now the dal and the rice have completely boiled. And now we are going to add in more hot water to have the consistency of the khichuri that you like. I also added in 3 slit green chillies. We will also add in some more salt if required and also about 2.5 teaspoons of sugar. You can add in more or less sugar according to your taste. Now it's time to add in 1 teaspoon of garam masala powder. It's already smelling of Pujo time, guys. And now we're going to finish with adding 1 tablespoon of ghee. There is one thing you should keep in mind, guys. When the khichuri cools down, it becomes a lot more thicker in consistency. So make sure to not make it too thick at this point. For my taste, when the khichuri starts to look like this, I turn off the heat. Because let me show you, when it gets a little more cooler, it hasn't even cooled down completely and you can see that the khichuri looks so much thicker. Anyway guys, done. Khichuri done. Let's make labra now. For the labra, I'm using 2 small potatoes cut in 1-inch pieces, about 15 to 20 pumpkin pieces, 10 to 12 flat beans, 15 to 20 medium-sized cauliflower florets, and 15 to 20 eggplant pieces. Other than that, I have 1 cup of cabbage that I cut in big chunks and 3 green chilies as well as a small tomato. You can use other veggies in labra if you wished. This is how my mom made it. Alright, let's set a pan on medium heat and add 3 tablespoons of mustard oil. That is going to add a wonderful flavor to the labra. We will add in half a teaspoon of Panch Phoron. The recipe of Panch Phoron is in the description box. Plus, we will add crushed ginger and green chillies. This is a 2-inch piece of ginger and 2 green chillies. Next, we will add half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, 2 teaspoons of coriander powder, 1 teaspoon of red chilli powder and some salt to taste. This is approximately 1 teaspoon of salt. Now we're going to fry the ginger, green chili, spices with the oil for 2 minutes. If the oil turns too hot, you can always splash a little bit of water and continue to fry. Make sure to fry the spices well, guys, because that is going to give the labra such a beautiful taste. This is the secret to Bengali cooking. Few ingredients, but if you cook it right, it's going to taste lovely. Now it's time to add in all the veggies along with the green chilies, just minus the tomatoes. We will add the tomatoes later because if we add the tomatoes now, the potatoes may not boil that easily. Next important tip to make this curry taste good, guys, turn up the heat and stir fry all the veggies for at least 10 minutes. You need to turn up the heat at this point because you don't want the veggies to release water as yet. You want them to have a nice golden brown color. You can tell that the veggies have been fried well. If you look at the potatoes and they look nice and golden brown, that's it. Now we are ready to add in a little more salt, and then we are going to turn down the heat again and we are going to place the lid on and let the veggies cook through. I'm going to cover for about 7 to 10 minutes to start with, and then we are going to give it a stir. Guys, if you prefer written recipes, I have a blog called noopursindiankitchen.com, so do check that out. It's been 5 to 7 minutes and the potatoes should have boiled a little bit. It seems to have been 50 to 70% boiled. So at this point, it is safe to add in the tomato pieces. We will give that a stir and we will place the lid back on for about 5 to 6 minutes till the veggies cook through. Guys, you know how nostalgic I'm feeling right now? These flavors of labra and khichuri is reminding me of my childhood when my mom used to cook this for Lokhi Pujo, Durga Pujo, and my sisters and I could not stop eating this along with tomato chutney and payesh. So it's been about 5 minutes and the veggies seem to have cooked through perfectly. There is some liquid that has oozed out. This is how labra should look, soft and mushy and so tasty. I'm adding 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. You can add as much as you wish. And that's it, guys. Your khichuri and labra are ready. Next, let's make tomato chutney. Set a pan on medium heat and add 2 tablespoons of mustard oil. Into that, add half a teaspoon of Panch Phoron. You can find the recipe of Panch Phoron in the description section below. Next, add 1 dried red chilli and you can break it and add it if you like it a little hotter. Next, we'll add half a teaspoon of turmeric powder and we'll give everything a stir for about 20 to 30 seconds or until the seeds have started to splutter. Next comes in some juicy red tomatoes. I'm using 3 tomatoes, 400 grams in total. Each tomato I cut in 8 pieces. Add that in along with half a teaspoon of salt. The salt is going to help the tomatoes get mushy quickly. We will give that a quick stir and place the lid on for about 5 to 7 minutes or until the tomatoes turn nice and mushy. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Consider subscribing for exciting recipes every week. The tomatoes have oozed out a lot of water. They are starting to look nice and soft. What we're going to do is we're going to press down on every piece with our spatula so it becomes even softer. And once we've done that, we are going to place the lid on for about another 2 minutes so that they get completely soft. If the tomatoes aren't that juicy, you can totally add a little bit of water. Next, I'm adding half a cup or 100 grams of sugar. You can add more if you like it sweeter, along with 7 split cashew nuts. Start stirring, the sugar is going to melt, and very soon, just like magic, your tomato chutney is going to start to look bright red in color like that. Just after the sugar has melted, you'll find that the chutney has this watery, thin consistency, but keep stirring for about 3 to 4 minutes and then you'll find that it starts to become thicker as the sugar solution thickens. And that's it. Turn off the heat, add 1 tablespoon of raisins and about 3 pitted dates that you can slice vertically like that. Guys, doesn't that look gorgeous? Bhog with tomato chutney in the end along with papad. Isn't that just the best? Next, let's make crispy Kumro Porer bhaja. De-seed and thoroughly wash a small pumpkin wedge. You don't have to peel the pumpkin. Just make sure that the pieces you cut are really thin as possible. For the batter, we need 1 cup of besan or gram flour and 1/4 cup of rice flour to make it nice and crisp. I'm going to mix it while trying to break up the besan clumps as much as I can. If you want, you can totally sift the besan so that there are no clumps. I was just lazy. Next, we'll add a 1/4 teaspoon of black cumin or kalonji, a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder, 1/2 teaspoon of red chilli powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. If your pumpkin is sweet, you can totally skip the sugar. Next, we are going to add in water a little bit at a time so that the batter becomes nice and smooth. And the consistency of the batter we are going for is a lot like the jalebi batter consistency. I used about 3/4 cup of water to reach this consistency. Next, I'm using the back side of a spoon just to add a pinch of baking soda to the mix, just about a 1/4 teaspoon. We want to beat this rapidly for approximately 30 to 45 seconds to introduce as much air bubbles as we can. Can you see those little bubbles? Yes, like that. Alright, next heat up some oil to deep fry the pakoras and heat the kadhai to medium heat. I always like to add a little bit of the batter, and if it starts sizzling right away, that means the oil has the correct temperature. You can also taste that and adjust for salt in the batter if you need to. We are going to dip 1 slice of the pumpkin and let the excess batter drip off. It helps to drag it to the edge of the bowl like that and drop it into the oil. Should we do another one? Hey, if you're new to my channel, welcome. Make sure to press the subscribe button because I post exciting recipes every week. These pakoras should take approximately 4 minutes or so to get golden brown and crisp. It's easiest to turn them using a fork, and just make sure to not disturb them for the first at least 5 to 10 seconds before turning them. Our pakora is going to be ready very soon. Alright guys, our crisp Kumro Porer bhaja is ready. Lastly, let's make Bhoger Payesh. We're going to start off by soaking Gobindo Bhog rice in water for 1 hour at least. This is 20 grams of rice or 1.5 tablespoons for a 1/2 liter of milk. Towards the end of the video, I'm going to share 4 important tips of how to get your payesh perfect. Next, we're going to take 7 split cashew nuts. They don't have to be roasted, you can use raw as well, and 12 to 15 raisins, into which we're going to add some warm water and let that soak until we finish our other steps. Into a pot, we are going to add 1/2 liter of full fat or whole milk because that gives the creamiest payesh. Well, you can also use toned milk and then add milk powder or add cream, but you don't need to do that. Just use full fat milk. Once the milk comes to a rolling boil, we will add the soaked rice along with 1 bay leaf and 2 cardamoms. Make sure to crack the cardamoms a little for more flavor. And our next ingredient is 1/2 teaspoon of ghee. It's 1/2 teaspoon of ghee for 1/2 liter of milk. Alright, that's it. We are going to start to stir and scrape the bottom of the pot so that the milk does not stick and burn. Also, using a spatula, make sure to scrape the sides from time to time so that that wonderful cream gets into the milk and the payesh turns out creamy. The milk has been boiling for about 5 to 7 minutes and the rice already looks about 50% cooked. Because the rice was soaked in water, it cooks fast. About 12 to 15 minutes of boiling, you can see that the milk is starting to get thicker and thicker. Just make sure to scrape the bottom and the sides of the pot, guys, because burnt milk does not smell good. At this point, let us check if the rice is cooked. When I press down on a rice grain, it mashes quite easily. but we are going to cook it for another 3 to 4 minutes so that the rice grain turns absolutely soft. Guys, this is very, very important, because if you don't cook the rice completely, it is going to turn hard when it cools down. Now the rice grain turns soft as soon as I touch it. It is so soft, and this is the perfect point where you're going to reduce the heat and add sugar. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of sugar. You can add more if you like. And we are also adding in the soaked cashew nuts and raisins. As soon as the sugar is added, it is going to melt and make the payesh a little bit thinner, but if you keep stirring for about a minute, it is going to come back to its original dense consistency. But don't make the payesh too dense, guys, because when it cools down, it does become even more dense. If you feel like the payesh has become more dense than you would like, you can fix it. Don't worry. Keep watching my tips that I'm going to talk about right now. First tip for creamy payesh is to pre-soak the rice for at least 1 hour in water. If you don't pre-soak the rice, even though the rice grains would seem like it's boiled, once the payesh cools down, the grains are going to get a little hard. Tip number 2 is to use the correct ratio of milk to rice. If you're using 1 liter of milk, don't use more than 40 grams or 3 tablespoons of rice. If you're using more rice, you're going to have rice halwa instead of payesh. And if you're using less rice, you're going to boil the milk forever to get to the right consistency. Tip number 3 is to add the sugar once the rice is completely cooked through. If you add the sugar beforehand, the rice is going to take a lot longer to boil. And the last tip, if your payesh becomes too dense, don't worry, add some hot milk to it and get it back to the consistency that you like. Guys, my mom makes this perfect payesh. I learned from her, and now you guys are going to make it too. Happy Durga Puja, everybody!